Star Wars 7 by 7 episode 2853. We started a conversation with Amy Ratcliffe yesterday, and today we're going to conclude it talking about the hosting of Star Wars Celebration Europe. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. So we're starting a series, or continuing a series, I should say, of looks at Star Wars celebrations and what goes into the hosting of a Star Wars celebration stage. Yesterday we had our first half conversation with Amy Ratcliffe about hosting the stage at Celebration Europe. Today, the second half of that conversation. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So you get the call for Celebration and they say, we want you to host a stage, and you say, after going through the, the thought process, yes, absolutely, yes. So what do they ask of you? What does being a Celebration stage host entail?
It basically means, Mary Franklin, who used to be with Lucasfilm and is now with Reed Expo, the people that kind of put on Celebration, the company that does,
right?
Keeps telling me, she's like, this is your stage, you own it, you kind of do what you want, which is kind of just means that it's free reign, that I get to kind of run it the way I want to run it. If I don't get a say in the panels necessarily.
Okay.
Those are submitted. If I have a panel idea and can wrangle the people for it in their space, but for this Celebration, I decided, I'm like, no, I kind of want to see, if I get the opportunity to host again, I'll go there, but this is a learning experience of sorts.
Right.
So once I have my schedule, which I mostly have now, and it's up on Celebration's website, actually, it's a lot of, I made myself a very detailed checklist, because it's a lot of, here are the panels, you're introduced to everybody who's running point for those panels. So I kind of have a checklist going of, who have I talked to? Have we figured out format? Because some panels also have their own hosts that they're bringing, so all I need to do is introduce that host. So it's do I have bios for that person? Do they want time for an audience Q&A? Do they have tech? Do they have a tech? It's not my responsibility to make sure necessarily the tech works, but it's my responsibility to know that I feel like it is, to make sure the panelists know that they have to tell my stage producer and managers about their tech and set up a time for a rehearsal to make sure it all works.
Oh, so you are really running this stage, like you said. You're the point person for all these, for all the panels that are running, and they're passing their needs through to you. You're having to communicate it to stage producers, or you're having to direct them to the stage producers to share their, tech wants and needs and that sort of thing?
Well, kind of. I'm very involved. Mary Franklin and another gentleman at Reed are actually very, they're CC'd on every email, and they're handling a lot of the coordination. But I'm an overachiever, so I'm also trying to be very proactive and probably communicating with people more than they really want me to. But I'm very concerned about everything going as well as it can.
Well, right. I mean, it being your first time, and if also you're not necessarily 138% confident on video or on stage, why wouldn't you want to put the extra preparation in? Of course.
Exactly. So, and then I'm spending actually this coming weekend. I'm going to make sure I I do my research. I have interview questions ready and kind of finalize those details. As much as I can. Because
you are moderating some of the panels that are happening there, but others you are not. You're just basically hosting and introducing. Is that how it works?
Exactly. I'm involved, I think, in probably the breakdowns 80% of the panels, but the other 20% are people are hosting, or the person doing it is just doing a presentation. Mm-hmm. So they don't really need me for that. I'll maybe do audience Q&A, help them out with that, but. And then there's the tattoo competition. That's the big last thing on my stage too, where I don't know if emceeing's the right word, but I will be hosting that, which I'm very excited about.
That is cool. So wait, which stage is your stage out of all of them?
Behind the scenes.
The behind the scenes stage. Okay, yeah. Got it. So what sorts of things are happening? The tattoo thing happens, I think, late Sunday. Is that right?
That's correct. It's Sunday afternoon, basically. It's the next to last thing before the last panel of the day, which has not been announced yet.
So you're saying it hasn't been announced. Do you know what it is?
Yes, I do.
All right. I have a theory about what it's going to be, but I will not ask you to confirm or deny. I'm just going to say it because there's nothing about episode 8 anywhere, and it occurred to me that when they did Celebration Anaheim, they were pretty clear on like their main what I guess it would be foci in this one for multiple focuses. Force Awakens was Thursday, Rebels was Friday. I can't remember what Saturday was, but then Sunday is when they did Rogue One, and we know we're getting Rogue One on Friday, and we're getting Rebels on Saturday. I can't imagine they're not going to say anything about Episode 8 on Sunday. So I've just decided that's, and I've already said this on the podcast before, that's where my bet is. But please do not try to confirm or deny, or please don't say I can deny it or whatever, because I don't want to put you into a position of saying something that you don't mean to say or anything like that. So, but I'm glad to know that there is actually something, and they're just deciding to not announce it just yet. So that's very cool. And there are a couple of spots actually, I think, that they're saying details coming soon.
Yeah, I did notice. I think most of my stage is still announced, with the exception, like we had a couple slots we were still filling in. Mm-hmm. But I did notice that because I don't know the schedules. I don't really have any other inside intel on the other stages unless they're like crossing. Like, because I'm streaming on Friday the Rogue One panel, like they did at Celebration Anaheim, where they stream the big panels into other panel rooms.
Right.
Like that's happening with the Rogue One panel, which is nice because then I get to see the Rogue One panel. So I was selfishly in favor of that. Like, please stream that in my room so I can watch it.
Right, exactly. I mean, do you have to give it like a brief hosting and say, all right, we're connecting over to the main stage now so you can watch the Rogue One panel, here we go, just at least that much?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So I'll either, depending on how timey is, I'll probably just sit in my stage and watch it. I don't think I'll try to go over to the main stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll see how easy. I don't know how far apart things are going to be yet either.
So what other kinds of things are happening on your stage then, on the behind-the-scenes stage?
So my stage is kind of all about the making of. Mm-hmm. So I have, or like companies that are associated with making, like I have Fantasy Flight Games panel. I have a couple of DK Books panels.
Oh, good.
Which is super exciting. I have Star Wars, like the Lucasfilm Disney Publishing panel. I have Star Wars Insider magazine, which is convenient. Mm-hmm. And one I think probably the one I'm most excited about right now on my stage is that Doug Chiang, concept artist for the prequels and The Force Awakens, and just super talented guy, is having, he's giving a presentation on my stage. So I'm, like, I don't know, it's just that surreal part of your day where you're like, I just wrote an email to Doug Chiang and he just wrote back, and my life is super weird and great.
That's how I felt when I first started emailing, and I had an exchange with Matt Martin at Lucasfilm, and I, I'd been given his email by another podcaster about getting the 7x7 podcast listed on the podcast section at StarWars.com, and I had that same moment. Oh my gosh, it's happening.
Yeah, like what is life?
Yeah,
what is? I have that one. I have that a lot.
Oh, that's a wonderful feeling to have. Goodness. I am looking forward to more experiences like that myself, for sure. But yeah, it sounds like you have actually rather lucked out then, because I think just based on what I'm hearing from you, some of the panels that, if you had been with a media pass sitting in on, are many of the panels that are actually on your own stage. Yeah,
it kind of works out. And as a fan, when I go to Celebration, the stuff on the behind-the-scenes stage and the Galaxy stage or what's usually the digital stage, are usually my favorite panels anyway. So I'm a little bummed. I think if I'm bummed to be missing anything, it's the Rebels panel, because they're showing the first 2 episodes from season 3.
They're not going to stream that into yours?
No. So I'm going to try to... I don't know. I mean, I'll have friends attending so they can tell me all about it. Mm-hmm. But I also might... I don't know, try to see. I'm like, is there just a way I could you just like put them on a disc that will destroy, like I'll have to watch it backstage in the green room. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but that's I think of all of them, that's the one I'm like, like I wish I could see that. But other than that, I'm really excited about my stage and everybody that I'm talking to.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm very excited for you. And so are you going to then also try to do writing and reporting for any of the outlets that you do, like IGN or Nerdist or anything like that?
No way.
It doesn't seem like you would have the bandwidth to do it, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, and like I feel like a few years ago Amy would have tried to somehow do that. But present day Amy understands self-care. And even with Full of Sith, Mike asked, he's like, could you, because I told him, I'm like, probably after this upcoming weekend, July 4th weekend, I'm probably going to be out until August. Because even with my personal life after like about July 5th, like I'm not making any social commitments until I leave, because I just want to make sure I don't stress myself out too much.
Right, all the research and the prep work and all of that fun stuff.
That's all I want to focus on in my normal work. So when Mike asked if I would be able to record some like updates from the show, just kind of like a little, not a diary, but kind of like, oh, this would happen on my stage. And I was just like, no, I want to, but I cannot commit. Like, I'm not committing to one more thing that is not my stage. If I feel like it when I'm there, yeah, maybe I'll do it. But I don't want to promise and then be like, I don't want to record anything.
Well, there's still going to be a ton to talk to you about after the fact anyway, about your experience doing it.
Exactly. And honestly, during the convention, I don't normally talk all day. In fact, I don't often talk a lot because I work from home.
Right.
So I'm a little concerned about, depending how much I talk, about keeping my voice functional. Because I know David Collins, he's been the host of the digital stage for the past few celebrations, and he usually doesn't have a voice by the end of it. And he's actually like a trained voice actor who knows probably how to, treat his voice well, and I don't. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, I think I remember from last year after you were at Comic-Con, I think you had lost your voice for a little while. I think that was because I think when I had asked you for if you wanted to record a bumper for the show, and you had lost your voice at the time. We had to wait a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it happened a little bit after Celebration too. And with those things, it's just because I go, like they're just so loud that even if you're not going to parties, even if you're just trying to talk to people on the convention floor, like you have to raise your voice,
right? And
it just strains it. But also, yeah, I don't normally talk a lot because I'm home alone most days,
Right, and suddenly, like, when you realize you have to go out to talk, do you ever have moments where you're actually not sure if your voice is going to come out, and if it does, whether it's going to come out at the octave you expect, or if it's going to crack or anything like that?
Not that, but I do often forget, like, how to converse with human beings. Like, I'll say things, and I'm like, that's not, like, where did you get that from? Like, this is not conversation. That wasn't a sentence.
Oh, you have to see if you can give me an example of that.
I'm trying to think of one. I know I'm definitely guilty of, like, I start, like, a thought in my head. And just if I'm with somebody, like, I finish that thought and talk to them, like, we've been having a conversation about it. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, it happened in my head. I guess I didn't vocalize it.
Right. So you're going to get across the pond. You're going to arrive in London for Celebration. I think you said you're arriving on the 12th or the 13th or so?
I'll leave here on the 12th. I'll get there on the 13th.
Oh, okay. Got it. And so they have you rehearsing then, too, is that right?
Yeah, there'll be some rehearsals on Thursday, and that's mostly just to have people who have panels come in to make sure their that their PowerPoint presentations work. Maybe they want to see the setup, so it's kind of an open time. I don't know exactly if I'll have to be there all day yet. I don't know, because I know there are also opportunities for rehearsals in the mornings before the show starts.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what that will involve yet.
Got it. It sounds like it might. Yeah, it's almost more for the panelists and for the sessions coming in than it is for you per se. Although I'm sure you wouldn't mind having the time to be there.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll test see what the mic situation is like and make sure I'm comfortable, and I'll meet my stage managers and producer in person. But yeah, it's mostly for the panelists to make sure that whatever they're bringing, as far as a laptop or not, whatever it is, that works the way they want it to work before the panel starts.
Got it. So with Doug Chang, the one that you think you're possibly the most excited for, he's only doing a presentation though. You're not getting to interview or ask questions or anything like that.
Yeah, he has like kind of a presentation, like kind of like a keynote style speech, which I'm okay with him too, because then I just get to sit there and like drool over his artwork. Yeah, and then we'll do like an audience Q&A at the end.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's awesome. And have you been in touch with the other stage hosts and finding out what they're doing, or are you on conference calls about this stuff? Like how does the planning of this work?
There's not really any other coordination with stage hosts. I talked to David Collins because he's a friend, and he lives very close to me. So we've had a few conversations where I'll text him and I'll be like, "What do you do about this?" Or
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts about this? And then we just get on the phone and talk. But I don't have Warwick Davis's email address.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. It will be cool if they follow past tradition. For the closing ceremonies, what they've done in the past is had, they have all the stage hosts come to the main stage to kind of talk highlights of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as that happens, I'll get to be on stage with David, who's a friend, and Warwick Davis, who is, Warwick Davis. And that's
right.
good. I'm looking forward to that too.
Mm-hmm. That is going to be awesome. And then you're not actually done then in England then. You're going to stay for a while, aren't you?
Yeah, I decided since I'm going over, and I decided this even before I realized I would be hosting, that I would spend some time there because I haven't really, aside from a couple of very short work trips, I haven't spent time in Europe. So I'm going, to chill for like the evening after celebration, and then I'm going to Paris for the next few days because I want to go to Disneyland Paris for a day of that.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I'll come back to London for a little bit, and then I'll go to Edinburgh, and then I'll come back to London to fly home.
Oh, that sounds like a fantastic trip.
So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. And this weekend, also on my list is to kind of finish just some of the decide whether I want to take the 5-hour train ride to Edinburgh or book a flight, which is roughly the same price, but not as, you're not going through the beautiful countryside. So I'm kind of figuring out that stuff this weekend.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. Yeah, we had a similar decision to make between going from Dublin to London that we're doing on the 13th, and we could have taken a ferry across to London, and then we would have been on a train for something like 8 hours, I think, some very long time, or we could hop on a Ryanair jet and make it in an hour and change or something like that. And ultimately, we just went and paid the extra €90 for the plane flight.
Well, yeah, to have that much more of your time freed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost not even a question. That's a long...
That's a long time. 5 hours, I can see it being like right on the border, because I mean that's like driving to Las Vegas, or from Los Angeles. That's not that too much of a time. You can kind of stand it basically.
Exactly. So that's why it's a little more of a I'm like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. So I have to think about that stuff.
Did you have your tickets and or your media pass for Celebration before they invited you to host the stage?
I had my media pass set up. Long before, because I submitted that application the first day I could.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, turns out not so necessary. But I was prepared.
Gotcha. Well, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about Celebration and your role in it. Like I said before, I'm just so excited for you, and really excited that Lucasfilm finally is putting a woman on a stage, and I look forward to the time, I think I even said this to you earlier, when this is not remarkable anymore, when it's just, women are on stage, yeah, and it's just a given, it's Amy Ratcliffe. It's not the first woman to be hosting a Star Wars stage, and, not to leave out other other genders or nationalities or anything like that. I think Leia identified 4 genders in Bloodline, so in case there are a few others running around that we don't know about yet, but I'm wicked excited for you, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'm probably going to be in your room probably more often than not, based on everything you've got going on there.
Well, awesome. Well, I would love that. I'd love to see familiar faces in the audience. I kind of do actually hope that the lighting situation is such that I will see familiar faces. It was that way at Anaheim, so I think it'll all be good. But I'm really excited about it and feel really happy that they knocked on my door.
So for everybody listening who wants to follow along with your journey on social media prior to and during the event, where should they be tuning into you?
They can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat if you use that at Amy_geek. And I will be using all three services, Wi-Fi and data plan permitting.
Thank you again so much for your time. It's been a pleasure as always, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at Celebration Europe in just a couple short weeks.
Thanks for having me back on.
Hey, Rebel Rouser. You're listening to this podcast, maybe you'd like to listen to a Star Wars story too. Luckily, we've got just the thing for you. We've partnered with Audible to give you a free download and a free 30-day trial of their awesome service. All you got to do is go to audibletrial.com/SW7X7 to sign up and get your free download. They've got dozens of Star Wars titles, anything you want to do to explore that galaxy far, far away. One more time for you, audibletrial.com/SW7X7. And there you go. That's my conversation with Amy Ratcliffe about Celebration Europe and hosting the behind-the-scenes stage there. And that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.